After the B&B project failed, the doors are closing on Mark Cavendish with fewer and fewer teams available to sign him. But how good was his 2022 season actually? Was he worse than 2021, where he won 4 Tour de France stages? Or was he actually just as good and he got less lead out and less opportunities? Let's dive into that into this video, and then we'll see which teams could or should sign him at the end of that season review. We start off in the desert, as is our wont in February, in Tour of Oman against Gaviria and Caden Groves. He didn't have a lead out here of much note. I can't remember whether it was Burt or not. And Richese was there for Gaviria. This was stage 1. He was caught behind Groves and he decided to go the long way around. Maybe he should have followed Groves along the barriers and just couldn't make it up to Gaviria on the line, who won the first stage, took the leader's jersey. But stage 2, this was one of the sprints of the year, actually. When I'm thinking about the craziest sprint wins of the year, this one went viral. Bike Exchange again were the strongest in setting up, with UAE with Richese having the strongest last man. Cavendish got detached from his 2 lead-out men. I think they're a little bit inexperienced, some of the younger guys on the team. Merku wasn't here at Oman. I don't know whether Cavendish decided to let their wheel go. He's in the points jersey and the green jersey because they were going too early. And as I said, Richese was the best last man in this race, and UAE had probably the best overall leader. And Cav's not in picture. Here he comes in on the right-hand open side in that green jersey. He's sprinting so early and wins. And, Tour of Oman, it was nice to see this, right? It was good to see it. He's clearly in good shape to start the season in February. This is still World Tour level competition, but it's Tour of Oman. It's not a World Tour race. But here, UAE Tour, which for the GC guys, listen, it's not the ultimate test. You see Quick-Step set up on the right-hand side, but for the sprint guys, there's 4 high-quality sprints every year usually in UAE Tour, and Quick-Step's train just wasn't as good this year. 2021, it was much better. Osorio, who got released, I think, by Bahrain, has just finished them with 3Ks to go. And it's a lot of this year, Merku, who maybe declined a little bit, was still pretty good. He was left with a lot of work to do often this year by Quick-Step setup men. The setup wasn't as good, and he's dropping Cav off with 250 to go, but Cav knows that's too early, so he doesn't want to hit the wind, and so he gets squeezed by Ackerman and Bennett, I think, and just can't contest the sprint. Philipsen wins that one. And so the setup was a consistent problem for Quick-Step and for Cavendish, I think, and this was the slowest stage ever. This is why the exposure breakaways, they provide a value because they get the stage finishing on time and they keep it moving. When the brake's caught and there's a block headwind, you get antics like this from the stage winner the previous day, Jasper Philipsen. But yeah, Merku was there, but Bike Exchange and Israel and FDJ had the strongest second and third last man. FDJ probably had best train overall this year, maybe, apart from Bora Hansgrohe. Bora launched best lead-out man in the world, Van Poppel, and Cav jumps him. And I think this sprint was perhaps, more impressive than the Tour of Oman one. Jumping from 250 plus, beating Philipsen, Ackerman, Demar, I think, was here. Coy, like that in the UAE Tour was super impressive, particularly with Bennett getting that lead out from Van Poppel. Just really, really impressive from Cavendish with, again, not a perfect lead out. And I would say his shape in February this year was better than in February 21, where he took sort of longer to get into shape and then peaked for the Tour de France. He was good out the gate in the desert in February this year. But here's what I mean with the high standards that Quick-Step have set for themselves. This was I think, stage 10 last year in the Tour de France. The Ballerini, Asger, and Alaphilippe Merku combo, you had them dropping Cav off with 100 to go. And you can't lose from there with a competent sprinter. Their lead-out was cracked last year, and it wasn't that. This year, they won a stage at the Tour, a sprint stage, but they're used to winning more than that, Quick-Step. And I think it did regress a little bit, their overall lead out. And you see, Merku still was good, but you see here again, Milano Torino, this was a big one-day tune-up sprint race before the Giro, Mercu's the last guy with 1K to go for Cav. There's no three-man ahead of him with 1,000 meters to go like at the Tour last year, and Mercu's having to, admirably freelance, do his best, and he still was good at that. And I think 450 meters to go, he's just surfing wheels, gets onto Sagan's wheel behind Buani. It's a little uphill drag here at Torino. And again, Cav, he's good at these little uphill drags, stays aero, always likes to tuck into the barrier, shut off one side. So this was a good lead out from Mercu. This was as good as he could hope for. It wasn't like a traditional 3-2-1, drop him off with 100 to go, but Cav got the W, looking in good shape. Wasn't going to be sent to the Tour de France though. Got sent to the Giro instead with Mercu, but not the full-on A train, but he got Mercu. And so first sprint stage in Hungary, I think this was stage 3, they were much better quick step. They did come out the gate firing, and Mercu was able to, go a little bit longer than normal. Their lead out was good, better than FDJ on this stage, dropping Cav off. It's still, considering this is an uphill drag, he still had a lot of work to do. This wasn't gift wrapped, and he was able to beat Binny and Demar in this stage. And yeah, it's still going. I've run out of things to say during Giro Stage 3. That was a really, really impressive sprint. But his season peaked here. At the start of May, it all sort of went downhill from there. This is Stage 6, one of the next sprint stages. Quickstep looking good. 1K to go, 3+ Cav. That's what you want to see. They're same as FDJ. And then 500 meters later, they lost 2 guys. And it's just Mercu now much deeper in the field as it's being torched by FDJ, trying to freelance with Cav. So that's what I mean when the overall train, especially it's not the A train, wasn't functioning as well. Mercu still did a good job, brought Cav forward, but it's 250 to go. And these guys are all, their levels so close. Ewan, Demar, Binny, Cavendish. Yeah, you can win sometimes going from 250, but it's not how you draw it up. They come out of his draft and they beat him on the line. And that's the last Cav would see of his friend Mercu for the season. He would leave the Giro after stage 6. And I'm not going to do a non-highlight reel of the rest of Cav's Giro where he's getting told by his last man here, I'll be seeing you. You'll be right for the last 500 meters. But yeah, could he have done better at the Giro solo? Probably. Yeah, he still had really good shape as he showed in the early stages. That you see here, I think this is stage 13. He's battling. Demar's got a nice lead out, not the best lead out, but a very, very good lead out. Dropped off at 175. That gives you a fighting chance. Cav had to go around the UAE lead out and can't come up to Demar, who was set up much better. And being kept in front in the last K in first 5-8 wheels versus having to fight from 15 wheels to then get the 4th wheel here to then start your sprint, it makes a huge difference in terms of energy. And yeah, Demar was fresher, had another 10 hard pedal strokes in the legs, and Cav couldn't come around him. And he didn't seem too happy about not being sent to the Tour de France, which he knew was going to happen, that Jakobsen was going to get sent when he, I think, re-signed the year before. And he didn't really get sent to any good races for the rest of the year. He won British National Champs, as we know, from a small, reduced group. That was a crazy performance. I think it was in August. And he was still in decent shape at points for later in the year. But yeah, got sent to Bologna and didn't really perform. Got sent to some local Belgian races where either Jakobsen was the leader or it wasn't suitable. The only real one where I think Quickstep went for him was the Memorial Rik van Steenbergen, where, yeah, he was fine. He came second to him earlier. No shame in that, big Kronenwegen. And so my overall point in showing all of this, showing maybe some of the lead-out issues, and, I didn't go through all the times Cav failed, because, Tirreno Adriatico and a lot of the Giro stages, he didn't perform, or Bologna, he didn't perform. But that's no different to 2021. He wasn't consistently lights out in 2021 either. And so not winning 4 Tour de France stages this year, it looks on paper like he got worse, but I don't think he did. It kind of was the same level, maybe even a bit fitter. If you look at the British National Champs performance, it's just different race schedule, different lead out. So my overall point is, he's still a good rider. He's still an above average sprinter by far, especially on the Spesh. So teams, who can he go to? Because B&B have that's failed. He went for probably the money because you don't go to B&B because you think they're one of the best teams in the world or like a team that can guarantee Tour de France sprint train success. You probably go to Intermarché on less money if you wanted that. Probably wanted the money at B&B. That's blown up in his face. Israel have said they're full. Quickstep maybe burn bridges or there's no budget. And so now, listen, I wouldn't give. You saw the Bahrain experience. I'd be pretty reluctant to give Cav like a 2-year deal on some big base salary. To me, Arkea looks like the best option out of two. Ineos is the other one. Arkea have got Dan McClay, Hofstadter. They're a sprint focused team mainly outside of Quintana. So they got to train. McClay speaks English there. Bang. Perfect for Cav. And he's a good last man too. They have a guaranteed Tour de France spot. And Quintana's was re-signed, and then that blew up after the Tramadol thing debacle. And so, do they have that assigned or allotted budget available? Do they have the budget sitting there for Cav? You know, whatever that Quintana money was, surely that's enough. Or maybe you can go a little bit less, but there should be budget there. They got the Tour de France spot. Cav is better than Buani. That to me makes the most sense because outside of like Arkea aren't that good. They won one World Tour stage this year. It was Barguil from a break in Tirreno. They're not that good. And Cav going to the TDF to break the Merckx record as a French team, I think that's something to shoot for them. Ineos is the other one where they've got money. UAE obviously have money, but they got Ackerman. Don't see that happening. And they can't guarantee, obviously, Tour de France leadership. Ineos, British. Cav's British. He's been on them before. They got money with billionaire owner who, you know, is obsessed with Britishness. Cav seems like a good fit there. Their train probably isn't as good as Arkea's. They will have a mixed team at the Tour de France where I presume Pidcock will go for GC and another guy might go for GC. They'll have some climbing domestiques. But still, you could go, I don't know, Kwiatkowski, Rowe, and you're sort of missing a last man unless Hajduk turns into a machine. So Cav at Ineos, it would still work. They did sign Viviani until the end of 2024, but Cavendish is much, much better than him, and he could provide a realistic opportunity in a year where there are lots of sprint stages, because Viviani, he ain't probably getting selected for their Tour de France team, let alone winning a Tour de France stage. If they don't take a pure sprinter, you're drawing a line through like 6-7 stages this upcoming Tour de France. Why not get Cav on a 1 year with a bonus? That would make sense too, but Arkea, I think, is the best spot for actually winning that final stage. He might have to take another 1 year cheapie and go for the cash in the next year. I don't know, but he's in a tough spot. Not just him, a lot of other riders impacted and staffed by that B&B debacle. Nick Schultz, amongst others. So real shame to see that. But let me know down below, where do you think Cavendish ends up? Maybe he can pull off the impossible before Christmas. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you with the next one later in the week. Ciao.